Hi everyone, Em Weber here from Lever Transfer of Learning. So in these opening videos for our newsletter, I will typically be talking about what's been happening in the previous month. But today I want to talk about what is going to be happening. So later on this month, on Tuesday 26th of May, midday Australia, Sydney time, I'm going to be hosting a webinar about reimagining learning. So I have been doing a lot of research about global trends and trends that are emerging as we come through COVID-19. I'm a big fan of trends, have been since the early 90s. I don't know if anyone remembers Faith Popcorn's work, the Popcorn Report, where she was predicting things like home delivery, video, all those kind of things. Which I just lapped up at the time and really, really loved. So I've kind of gone back to that passion and really started to think, well, what do these global trends tell us about learning, and what as learning professionals can we learn from them? And trends, of course, can be everywhere. I was looking this morning at an article in Fortune magazine with 14 CEOs from the US, people like the CEO of Delta, the CEO of Gap, sharing with us their re-entry strategies for their staff. So I just wanted to draw on some of these trends now and share with you a couple of ideas that we'll talk about even more about when we get to our webinar next week. So one of the ideas is that people are really focusing on safety and certainty for their staff and for their customers. And of course, we can see why that is happening and why that's important. Everyone has been in a very unsafe space. But the thing that brings us the greatest safety and certainty is operating out of the space of the, let's actually just call that the known. But of course, what we now know is we're moving into this post-COVID environment, or even during COVID, if we want to say that it means it's just, dormant in our societies, hopefully. That is just so much, which is of course unknown. And the unknown is where we're operating mainly now. And so I put it to you that the sweet spot where the known and the unknown actually meet is where we can do our best work at the moment. So often when we're in that completely unknown space, it can be really hard to know which direction to go in, which path to walk down. It can be challenging, but the sweet spot between the known and the unknown is perhaps where we can do that best work. So as an example, immediately I saw some organizations jumping into, well, how do we get our learning online? How do we make it virtual? So we took the known learning that we had, and then we put that into an unknown environment to us, perhaps online. But let's think about this intersection a little bit deeper. I think there's an intersection that happens, that there's things that we have always known within learning, but that we have not known how to solve them. So they're in the unknown, and they're in this sweet spot between the two. And I put it to you that one of the knowns and unknowns that we have been working on in learning is the finish line of learning. And the finish line of learning is something that I have been talking about for many years now. But I want to share with you, and I'm going to be unpacking it more, as I say, in the webinar. I've had some really big ahas on the finish line of learning recently. So let me just give you a little taster. There's an organizational need that we will investigate and see what's required. We might choose to, which may be the form of analysis. We might look at the ADDIE model, design, and develop our solution, and then we implement our solution. Now, whether you're using an agile methodology or whether you're using human-centered design, you will start with a need and you will come to a solution. And you may well iterate through that process. But either way, often at some point, not a very good square, but I think we can live with that, we'll end up with a learning solution. Now, what we know is typically in the past, the way that we choose to evaluate that learning is through this finish line of learning. And this finish line is typically just after a learning has happened, or as part of a learning intervention but really linked to the learning. So we're asking questions about how effective was the learning, what did you learn from this intervention, a lot of questions actually about kind of content and learning. So our argument has always been actually there needs to be a finish line for learning, which is some distance after. As you can see, this is a bit of a novel way for me to try and communicate, and we're still in learning phase a little bit here. The new finish line of learning is where we actually have the behavioural change. And of course, you guys are used to me talking about behavioural change. And in the past, we will have always talked about the gap between the two being the transfer, whether we call that transfer, application, or embedding. But guys, I think there is something that is even more important that is going to become absolutely essential to us as we come out of post-COVID than transfer. And in fact, I'm boldly going to line through transfer and say that is not the most important thing right now. Now, I'm going to be sharing with you what I do feel is the most important thing when we come to our webinar next week. And not only is it really, really important in this space here, it's actually important throughout the whole process. And it is one of the biggest trends that is emerging, not just in learning, but across all facets of industry. So we're going to be focusing here for next week. I'm going to be unpacking that with you all, but I just wanted to share some of the reflections that I have been doing and to tempt you and taste you into coming to our webinar next week. So I hope you find, I hope we have a chance to connect on the webinar. Regardless, I hope you find the newsletter below useful, and I look forward to speaking with you very, very soon. If we can support you in your learning transfer endeavors, getting better results from your learning, or in fact, reimagining your learning as you go forward, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks everyone. Very best wishes. Stay safe and well.